The Nothing Phone 1 is finally official, meaning we know pretty much everything there is to know from the pricing, specs, and of course, time and availability. Following the hype generated from the guys over at Nothing Tech, this is one approach to doing a near enough premium, true, mid-range Android device that is set to potentially shake things up. But before we get ahead of ourselves, there is one phone within the same Android space that potentially might disrupt what the Nothing Phone 1 is trying to bring. Hi, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy videos like this and you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. Yes, the phone of course is the Google Pixel 6a, which Google did a major and also part unveiling on the 11th of May at Google I/O 2022, with Google dropping details like the use of the same exact tensor chip found in the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, the design and even the price. Both the Pixel 6a and the Nothing Phone 1 will actually be available as of the 21st of July. But in this early discussion comparison, we're going to take everything we know so far and see which one might be the better phone. Let's kick things off with the design and build quality here. And as good as both phones are, I've got to say, what the Nothing Phone 1 is bringing here at this price point is definitely up there as potentially some of the best and the most unique we've seen on a mid-range smartphone. Now, the shape of the Phone 1 is more akin to the shape that is of the iPhone 12 and 13 with the more flatter, more squared look, but we finally know that it is using Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and the back, in between an aluminium metal frame and a very minor IP53 splash resistance against water. The real star of the show is at the back with the following of what looks to be their transparent design identity from the A1, which makes its way over to the Phone 1, but taking things up another level with the use of soft diffuse LED lights, which are used as part of what they call the glyph interface. Now, it's still up in the air how useful the glyph interface will be, as most tend to lay their phones flat with the screen facing up and have become accustomed to the use of an always-on display, especially on the Android side for seeing notifications and things like the time. But away from that, it is cool to see the LED lights in action, which can be used for unique notification alerts, showing you your charging status, wireless charging indicator, a soft fill light from when you're taking pictures and especially videos, and there's even a red tally light at the back to let you know you are recording. Potential gimmicks aside, this is a unique touch to the Nothing Phone 1. Now, the Pixel 6a may look to struggle a little bit here, but you know what, stick with me because it still does well for a unique design identity, which is perfectly in line with the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, with the horizontal camera bar at the back, which taps into the legacy design of the old Nexus 6P, but for the modern day. And most important, some quality of life features that put the Nothing Phone 1 in its place. Yes, we know so far it is using a plastic back with Gorilla Glass 3 for the front display, but it still holds its own by using an aluminium frame and also having a proper IP67 rating for true water and dust resistance. Both are premium, but at times there ain't nothing more premium than a good old IP67 rating on a smartphone. It's going to be interesting to see how both will hold up long term, whether the more practical design of the Pixel 6a with the more curved back and lighter weight will trump the more unique look of the glyph interface and the flatter design of the Nothing Phone 1. Next is the display, and as similar as things may seem on paper, there are more differences that set the Pixel and Nothing apart here. Pun intended? Yes, both are using full high definition plus 20:9 aspect ratio flat OLED displays, but the difference starts to kick in more with the Phone 1, which actually uses 120Hz display with a peak brightness of 1200 nits. On top of that, you do have an ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner, which from the early test shows that it is both fast and very accurate. Reports have also come back that the haptics on the Phone 1 are solid, which is another huge intangible you do not see on the spec sheet and make a huge difference to the user experience, in my personal opinion. With a display size of 6.55 inches versus the 6.1 on the Pixel 6a and the use of Gorilla Glass 5 versus 3 on the Pixel 6a, which looks to be a strong potential win right here for the Nothing Phone 1. Confirmation is needed, but I do believe the Phone 1 does not have an always on display feature in favor of the glyph interface, which means that this case, potentially here, the Pixel 6a takes it as it does support an always on display. Now the real icing on the cake is the perfectly symmetrical borders on the front display of the Nothing Phone 1, which legit is something you don't even see on some premium phones, let alone a mid-ranger. The real world use case will really tell if the specs of the display and the design really make or break the experience on the Nothing Phone 1 versus the Pixel 6a, which is only using a 60Hz display. For the specs and the performance, this is almost, and I really almost no competition here, as this is where the Pixel 6a took the industry by storm at Google I/O when it was announced to be using the exact same 5nm tensor chip found in the more premium 6 Pro. If this is truly the case, then the Nothing Phone 1 is almost in trouble, because that custom 6nm Snapdragon 778G Plus in terms of raw power is nowhere near what the tensor chip can do. Now, yeah, poor one for how many times I just said almost, but I say this because the Pixel 6a will only be available in one SKU, which is 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. That's it, no more, no less, even if you wanted to pay more for it. Whereas on the other hand, at the same £399 price point, the Phone 1 starts with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, with two more options at 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage, and also a whopping 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. The Nothing Phone 1 has a lot to prove here when it comes to real world, stable, smooth and fast performance, but let me tell you, that tensor chip in the Pixel 6a is going to be taking and kicking behinds and taking names at this price point. When it comes to the camera, call me someone that is hyped and cannot wait to get hands-on with both these phones for a detailed lover of tech style camera comparison, so definitely make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. What is good is that both are taking a no nonsense, no gimmick approach to the cameras, with both phones using a wide and ultra wide for the rear cameras and also a single hole punch camera for the selfie. The Phone 1 is using two 50MP sensors for the wide and ultra wide, with support for video up to 4K 30 frames per second and 1080p 60 frames per second, with a 16MP selfie that shoots video at 1080p 30 frames a second. Now the Pixel 6a on the other hand is going with two 12MP sensors for the wide and ultra wide, with an 8MP selfie. Now thanks to the tensor chip, we should have support for 4K 60 frames per second video, at least on the rear wide sensor at the back, with class leading video stabilization. This one right here, I can't wait to do it in person. When it comes to the comparison, when it comes to software, the overall reputation is in favor of Google with the Pixel experience, Android 12 out of the box, and with what people love to refer as the more stock Android experience. It really does feel like nothing is playing away in Google's home court, but things like long-term OS version support at 3 years and 5 years of security on the Pixel 6a, which should last up to Android 15, and the more stock Android experience at this price point, it does indeed look like the Nothing OS is going to have its work cut out for sure. With apparently only 2 years of OS version updates for the Phone 1, the Pixel 6a is looking very strong here when it comes to the software experience and especially support. For the battery, the Phone 1 is rocking a 4500 mAh battery with support for 33W wire charging over USB-C, 15W wireless charging and 5W reverse wireless charging, with of course no charger in the box on both phones. Now let's compare that to the Pixel 6a, which is using a 4420 mAh battery with support for 18W wire charging and no form of wireless charging at all. The features for battery and charging definitely do favor the Phone 1. Now look, as the battery capacity and size is really no different between the two, the real world usage and battery optimizations and efficiency will be the key players here. Ooh-wee. Man, what an interesting one. And you know what? This could be the real battle of the ages for the mid-range Android smartphones that we've not seen in a long time. Which one is your pick between the Nothing Phone 1 and the Google Pixel 6a? Or do you think phones like the Galaxy A53 from Samsung and even the iPhone SE2 hold a much better and much more compelling package for the mid-range price around that £400 price point? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Apart from that, that is it for me, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy videos like this, you know exactly what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.